Yeah, and it was hard on him, but it was such a tough year for him, and I'm so proud of him because he battled through everything personally and then never brought it to the office. He was fantastic all year, and he can still sling it now, but I think he's done.
Yeah, what do you think was behind? Why was it such a hard year? Because of injuries on and O-line issues, or was it Tom personal stuff? If you had what happened?
I think it was a combination. Yeah. The injuries weren't, sometimes your center got hurt or this guy got hurt. We lost leaders. When Ryan Jensen went down, that was big because he's like the heartbeat of the offensive line and the toughness. Robert Hainsey did a good job, but it's not the same when you start losing Shaq Barrett's and Ryan Jensen's and guys like that. It's tough, but for Tom, pushing through the personal stuff was really hard.
I mean, he's somebody who's so laser focused, right? So how are you even able to tell that it was weighing on him?
Well, it was easy early because he lost all that weight, and but then he got it back, and you could see him start smiling again and doing some things that are just normal, and it's so hard to go through what he went through.
Fans, we watch the game and we see what's happening on the field, and you've been on so many teams. It seems like there's a whole layer of information about what's really happening with the team. Personal lives bleed into what we see on the field, right? Has that been your experience throughout your career?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, sometimes, babies are getting born and things are happening. It's like, hey, you can't control any of this stuff, and you try to manage as much as you can, and hopefully the leadership on your team helps you navigate through that.
And as a head coach, is that a big skill for a head coach to deal with people? I know Andy Reid has been credited for that a lot.
He's one of the
to bring
best,
people in his office and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, you got to there's so many good people. I think we've finally awakened to sports psychologists and psychologists being on the staff and helping these young guys adapt to having money and having the league and all the pressure that goes with it. They don't want to talk to a coach.
Oh, okay.
They want, but
you're the boss.
To have those people is amazing. It's one of the best things we've started doing.
It was funny. We were talking to Justin Jefferson, great wide receiver, obviously, for the Vikings, and there was a profile piece where Kevin O'Connell, the new coach, came in and said, meet me in my office. And he said, I don't know where the coach's office is. He had never been to Mike Zimmer's office, I guess. That was, very revealing. I thought, I always assumed that coaches were, super connect with their players. How is it different for you now in the front office? Because we saw you on the sidelines that Saints game, Coach. You couldn't help yourself but be back out there fighting for your team.
Got another rule made.
You proud of that?
Yeah, but no, it was a great transition for me. I was ready. I got to go to practice, got to help the coaches, whatever they needed. I wanted to stay out of the way because I didn't want to overshadow anybody, and I think Todd did a great job with the transition, all the injuries and everything that went on this year to still win the division, and hopefully we'll get better next year.
As you look at this hiring cycle, it's still, I think there's a diversity problem with coaching. Where do you think the NFL is with that now, and what can they do?
I think we've made progress. We're starting to get quarterback coaches and getting people in line to become coordinators on offense, because right now the hiring cycle is offense.
Yep.
For about 15 years it was defense. When Parcells and those guys were winning championships, everybody hired defensive coaches.
Right.
Now it's all offensive coaches and who can bring these young quarterbacks around fastest.
Bruce Arians is joining us on behalf of the Arians Family Foundation, of course, Super Bowl champion, two-time Coach of the Year. All right, so what are the Bucs going to do at quarterback now that Tom is no longer
it's like
in the NFL?
When we decided 3-4 years ago, let's look behind door number 2. You never knew who's behind door number 2. We never would have thought it was Tom Brady. I joked about it and I caught hell for it. But, it's like you never know. But I love Kyle Trask. I think we drafted Kyle. He's sit around with Tom and Blaine Gabbert. He's learned how to be a pro, and he's changed his body. He's getting better and better. So I think we're fine with him.
Okay, so Perloff is a massive Philadelphia Eagles fan. We know your connections to Philadelphia run very deep, Coach. We had a discussion the other day about who has the coaching advantage in the Super Bowl. And I was arguing on behalf of Andy Reid. And Perloff says he thinks it's Sirianni because the coordinators are real hot now. And where do you see the coaching advantage in this game?
Well, I'm going to go with experience every time.
Of course.
And Andy is one of my favorites. He's one of the most innovative guys and stays way ahead of the game. You're never going to catch up to Andy Reid. I mean, it's just amazing. And but I really like what Nick did. I think Nick learned from last year, and how he put some pieces in there, and that defense is something special.
You know, one thing that Nick does well is fourth down, and these young coaches and some of the older coaches are
Doug
so
Peterson,
aggressive now. And Doug
Arians,
Peterson. But you know what, Sirianni? Just my argument was is that Nick's been really hot on fourth down calls, and that seems to be a big part of the game right now.
Yeah, and they can blow up on you real fast.
But the Eagles have that rugby push that is not blowing up at all.
That hasn't been outlawed yet, but it's gonna.
Wow.
They're not going to name that one after you, though.
No, that's for sure. But that's a great play. Until they change the rule of pushing instead of pulling, you know.
Did you look at it and say, why didn't I think of that? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, that happened a long time ago. We did. Our fullback came in, hit the quarterback, knocked him in. This was about 25 years ago.
Oh, really? So you had. Okay.
Nothing is new.
Nothing's new.
It's
no,
all
I promise you.
cyclical.
I have to laugh at jet motion. People talk about, oh, man, that's so inventive. They were doing that in Mississippi Junior College in '78.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, last one for you, and again, joining us on behalf of the Arians Family Foundation. You know, I think that we look at these dynamic offenses and we think like, man, can't be stopped. And then we get to the playoffs, and what always happens? Running the ball, defense comes in big. It's like, where's the disconnect here between like the regular season of the NFL and then what we see in the postseason? How does that affect team building?
Yeah, I think, you know, weather has something to do with it a little bit in the Northeast, but I still think the guys that can throw it win. The guys that are scoring points win. That's not necessarily the running teams. If they get behind, like we got Philly behind last year, and they couldn't catch up because they didn't have the passing attack they have now. That's what I see the big difference in Philly. They have a passing attack now, so they can play from ahead or behind. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You got to score points.
Yep.
Bruce, do you still have the cocktail party out of the back of the trunk? That was one of the great details from your
Maggie
book.
wants an invite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I being a little too thirsty for the invite?
We had come Saturday, 12 to 3 at STK in Scottsdale. We'll fill you up.
There you go.
All right. Well, I consider that an invite. You can consider this my RSVP.
You got it.
Coach Bruce Arians, two-time Coach of the Year, Super Bowl champion. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate that.
You bet.
We're back with more Maggie and Perloff right after this.